afternoon, good morning, good evening, scholars, wherever you're watching. We are back with a follow-up to our last video. Last video, we talked about home ownership, the how-tos, the 101s, talked about credit. We talked about what to do in preparation. We talked about finding the right, starting your home search, finding the right realtor. So today we're going to extend that conversation. We're going to dive into it a little deeper and talk about mortgages and down payment and first-time home buyer assistance. So, of course, I have back with me Kelvin. Kelvin is the guru of said topic. So Kelvin introduced himself, of course, and you all know him. So we'll just jump right into it. So our first topic that we want to talk about, Kelvin, is let's kind of break down mortgages. Talk about the types of mortgages that that you can get when you purchase a new home, and we'll go from there. So we'll jump right into it there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different type of mortgages out there that you can use to tap into purchasing a new home or an existing home for that matter. You have a fixed rate mortgage where the interest rate is fixed over that term of the mortgage, which is typically most folks are getting 30-year mortgages. You have an adjustable rate mortgage. These mortgages, I never really recommend these mortgages, but it sounds exactly what it is. The rate adjusts every year or after a period of time. So it could be a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage, so often called an ARM. Mm-hmm. So you'll have a 10-year ARM or 5-year ARM, which is an adjustable rate. Well, that rate will stay at whatever the rate you lock it in, the interest rate you lock it in at for a period of time, that 5 or 10 years. And then after that period of time, the rate will fluctuate. It will adjust. So each month it could be different depending on how's the market. So if you were paying 3%, over a 5-year term, and you have a 5-year ARM rate, and now you're jumping in to past those 5 years, that 3% could go back to wherever the market is at that point in time. So it could go higher, it could go lower, but I don't recommend it for those reasons. And it was part of the reason why a lot of folks got into some trouble with the housing market when the market crashed, because they had those loans. Those loans, and also jumbo loans where you pay your mortgage for a certain period of time, say 5-10 years, and then you have a jumbo payment. And most folks I know don't have a jumbo payment in the bank account ready to pay off a mortgage. No, unless you're bought like a 20, 30, 40, 50,000, maybe $100,000 home. Some of the most commonly known mortgages are your government insured mortgages. So your FHA, your first time home buyer mortgage, which is insured by the government, so that if you default on your loan, it has some protections in there. Those require that 3.5% down payment. And then your conventional, which most folks typically will promote the 20-year conventional, the 20% conventional package, where you pay 20% down payment. So let's say with the average sale price where we live now is about, let's say $350,000. 20% of $350,000 is $70,000. Many folks don't have 20% in the bank to purchase a home. So a lot of folks do gravitate, especially first-time home buyers. They'll gravitate towards that government insured FHA loan, where it's less money out of their pocket. But now what I'm starting to see more with conventionals is you have not just your 20% down payment, but you can do 10%. There's 5%. I have a client with 3% conventional. And so the great thing about conventional, and this is a good comparison between conventional and FHA, outside of the money that you put down, is once you have 20% equity in your home, you've paid your mortgage down to 80% loan to income value, LTV. That mortgage insurance that's on your loan goes away because that's your collateral for the loan. That's the bank considers that your collateral. When you're in an FHA, you don't have that collateral in there, and so that mortgage insurance, they call it MI in the mortgage world, stays with you through the life of that loan. And so even if you paid your mortgage off, you have 3 mortgage payments left, you're still going to have mortgage insurance to pay.
Wow.
And so that's another reason why some folks tend to gravitate towards the conventional because they don't want to pay mortgage insurance. And so a lot of folks kind of stay out of home ownership until they can get 20% down. I don't really recommend that to folks. If you can get it with 3.5%, get it. You can always refinance out of it into a conventional once you're more financially stable and have 20% to put down on that loan. But
Okay.
yeah, those are some of the most common loans that you hear about. But you have a fixed rate, adjustable rate, a jumbo. But most folks are usually using a conventional loan, which is very typical, and the FHA loan. And within those packages, each mortgage program has different mortgage offerings that they can do, like a USDA loan, which is for homes that are located in certain rural areas where there is 100% financing. You don't really have to put down any money for a down payment. It's always recommended to put down something, but it's not required to put down anything for a down payment because it's 100% financed.
Okay. So what about, so you mentioned the USDA loan. So what is the difference for someone who may put down the 20% or for that loan? So let me rephrase for the USDA loan specifically. A lot of scholars may live throughout that map that tells you the areas that you can use the USDA loan. Would it be super beneficial to put down 20% or even 5% or 10% on that loan, even though I'm not required to?
Um, yes and no, because if you work with a lender and you try to put down 20% in a USDA loan, then it doesn't really make sense to because you can just go into conventional. Sometimes the USDA loans have higher interest rates.
Okay.
So you will always get a lower interest rate. You typically get a lower interest rate on the conventional because the conventional buyers, really they have 20% down. They have high credit scores, and so they're automatically going to qualify for for lower interest rates. Not saying that FHA buyers do not, but FHA buyers have they both have their own set of interest rates. FHA's interest rate is always going to be a little bit different than the conventional interest rate. And then, like if you're doing an ARM or a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, which is something we have discussed, then a 15-year mortgage interest rate is going to be lower because it's for a shorter period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the question, and I might be jumping the gun, but I always get the question: should I choose a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage? And I would say, it's not like you're paying off a car. It was like, hey, I got a 6-year loan, I can pay it off in 3. This, purchasing a home, it's a long-term commitment. So my theory behind that is to go with 30-year, but pay your mortgage as if you were paying 15-year. So in case you lose your job or there's a pandemic, we know about those now, that you're not locked into paying the 15-year and then trying to refinance from a 15 to a 30.
Because of
If you start
financial
off with
hardship.
30 and your mortgage is 1,500 and you say, you know what, I'm going to pay an extra $1,000 on top of that, or an extra $1,500, I'm going to pay one payment and make 2 payments within one. You're operating within the mindset of, I'm going to pay my loan down quicker without being financially committed on paper and by law and through the bank to do so. And so you can save on your interest rates that way too. And cut down the amount of years you're paying your mortgage.
Now, would it be, how beneficial would it be for me to, let's say my mortgage is $1,800 a month. How beneficial would it be for me to pay it? I'm locked into a 30-year mortgage. If I'm paying $1,800 a month, would it be beneficial for me to just pay $2,000 a month? $2,000? How would that affect me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the more you pay over time, it's cutting into your interest payments. Because when you make your mortgage payments, you have your principal and your interest. So any extra that you pay is cutting down the amount of time that you will have to pay in that 30 years. So if you made one extra mortgage payment a year, you're probably going to save a couple of years off of that 30 years.
through one. So if I pay that, let's say I'm paying $1,800 a month, and I end up paying 13 payments a year. You're telling me that one payment will cut off years?
Yeah, it'll cut off some time. Yeah, I forget the exact how much time, but it will cut off some time on your mortgage. So, and those are tricks. The banks, they may tell you, they may not tell you, but the way to kind of cut down those interest rates is to make extra payments, the same you would do with a credit card or a car payment. Making extra payments to get that balance down quicker, to cut into that principal and interest a little easier.
Okay, now jumping back to the 30 versus the 15 year, what is there a specific circumstance or specific criteria for individuals who may want to do the 15-year rate instead of the 30-year?
Yeah. So, like, I've seen older families, older individuals purchasing. They may not have 30 years left on earth.
Hmm.
And they're purchasing a home because you never. My theory is you're never too old to buy a house, but you don't want to be locked into 30 years, and you have the means to make the payment at 15 years. Then they will definitely do that. Now, I haven't come across in my time somebody saying I'm gonna pay off a $500,000 mortgage in 15 years because I would love for them to help me pay mine off too. But if you're buying a property at $100,000 and you have the cash flow, the $100,000 mortgage is probably going to cost you about $700-800 a month, depending on the interest rate. And you say, hey, I can do 15 to 2,000 a month because rent in my area is this. Yeah, by all means, knock it out early. Build that equity, leverage that money to do what else you need to do in life, or to keep it, as for some financial stability.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Now I want to ask you a quick question. We get the down payment question a little bit. So we talked about it a little early, but in relation to down payment, how important is it? Let's say you're not on a specific loan that doesn't require, how important really is it for that down payment? And if let's say I do have my 20%, should I put down more? I may not even, and this question also comes into the fact that, hey, I may not be wanting to keep this house for 30 years. I may be
Right.
looking to sell it in maybe 5 or 10. Should I go all out on the down payment, or should I kind of stick to the bare minimums and then continue with my normal payments?
Yeah, so I say if it's a place that you're not looking to keep for the long term, I wouldn't put all my money. If I had 100 grand to put into property and I had an option to only put down 20, I'm going to put down the 20 so I can invest the other 80,000 in something else, right? So I don't want to tie up my liquid cash if I know this investment I plan to sell in the next 5, 6, 7 years. So yeah, and that's just me. I'm never all about giving all my cash away. And I advise my buyers the same way. So I have folks like, yeah, I can put down $100,000. It's no problem. I'm like, okay, well, could you earn more on that $100,000 if you didn't put it onto the house? Like, how much on interest can you earn if you invested that in something else, whether it's the stock market, or folks are doing cryptocurrency, or you buy into another business or start another business to make that money work for you even more versus throwing it all in to just only get it back. And that's, you might even lose some of it if the market
Mm,
doesn't capitalize as much as you want it to. So, no, my advice is, always put down what's necessary. And if you want to buy down your payment because you think your payment is too high, then you put down what's necessary to make your payment comfortable for you. The worst thing you want to do is jump into a house that you can't afford to pay every month, because losing that house to the bank is financial, disaster. It'll be, you can bounce back from it, but why, when you could have set yourself up differently in the first place? So my thing is, if the house requires 10% down, do 10% and take the other money and make that other money that you was gonna put down make money for you in another way. Invest it in another way to get more gains off that versus throwing it all into the house.
okay. That's definitely good information. And you brought up a good point in your last comment, talking about you don't want to lose your house to the bank. So I wanted to kind of ask, when you're perusing the Zillows and the Redfins, you see certain homes. So you see, new construction. We all know what that is. House just built from the ground up. Then you see, just a family's just looking to sell their home. They may have purchased another one. So,
Yep.
or you see a house that's being sold by a company who bought it, renovated it, and now they're selling it back to you. Talk about those, the ones that are listed as a short sale for a moment. Talk about what
Yeah.
as a foreclosure. So what exactly? So if I see a house that I like, but it's listed as a short sale, what am I getting into?
Yeah, that's a that's a great question because I think you're going to see a lot of those popping up over the
Hmm.
next year or so. Because a lot of folks defer their mortgage payments, and that's a whole other conversation. So a short sale. So imagine you buy a house, and after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you really can't afford the house anymore, or you're just so behind on payments. You have some options. The bank can foreclose on you, take your house completely,
Hmm.
or they can allow you to short sell the house. And what that is, and this happens in a few instances. If you owe more on the house than what it's worth, so like in the auto industry world, if you're upside down on your loan, and the bank will agree to let you short sell the house,
Hmm.
or like the house doesn't appraise at you know like you owe 350, but the comps in your area only suggest the house is going to sell for 300, and so your loan is upside down, and you're trying to sell that house and you can't really afford it. You're working with your bank to do what's called a short sale, and those are really they're best when they're negotiated with the bank by the bank. They have individuals who specialize in short sales, but what you get yourself into is a much longer process than what a regular fee simple sale would be. So I can go out and buy a house that's, for sale with no strings attached, no foreclosure, no short sale, no auction. And if all things go well, I can close on the house within 30 days, sometimes 20.
Hmm. Right.
Things line up, the world lines right. You can, but 30 days, 30 to 45 days is about average. If you see a house that's a short sale, that house is being sold with the bank's permission, at a certain price. The bank also will come back and keep appraising that house and make sure, because now banks want to get top dollar.
Right.
So back in the day, like when we were coming up and thinking and learning about home ownership, you can go buy a short sale or foreclosure and save 40, 50, $60,000. Now you're gonna save about $5 or $6 because the banks want as much
Wow.
money and they know that they can get it. So it's a process in which the bank allows you to sell the home, maybe not at the value that it may be worth, to help you avoid foreclosure.
Hmm.
Or if the home has lost a lot of value, like when the market crashed and the homes lost a lot of value, and it just didn't make financial sense to keep pouring into this house, and you work with your bank and they allowed you to short sell, because you just can't go and say, I'm gonna short sell my house. You really have to work with your bank to do that, and each bank is different. But it's going to be a longer process if you're on the buyer side trying to buy that home, because the folks who own that home, along with the bank, there's so much paperwork that they have to keep filling out and be sent to the bank. The banks are not in business to buy and sell homes, so their process on their end sometimes takes a long time. So, and I've done this before. I've worked with what they call a short sale negotiator. It's a third party that interacts between the homeowner and the bank to make sure the process goes smoother. When I see those in deals, I'm more likely to take one of my buyers over to see the house, because I know this could be a smooth process with
Yeah.
short sale negotiator helping through the process. But I've definitely pulled contracts out of deals because it was longer than 60 days, longer than 90 days. It was too long to keep my buyers waiting. Um, and they were still going to have to do some work on the house once they got in, like replacing carpet everywhere and fresh paint. And so it's just a much longer process. And you have to be patient and persistent. But if you're that type and you have time to wait and you don't have anything saying that you need to move by this date or buy a home by this time frame, you can get a really good home sometimes at a better price than what you would get on a resale market. because the banks are not in the business of selling and buying homes. They want to get rid of it.
Okay, now I think you touched on that point. This next point, kind of to the latter part of that statement. When you buy a short sale, you're buying that as is, right? So
In most cases, yeah.
any
Yeah.
updates that you want to do,
Yeah.
anything that needs to be fixed, that's all coming out of your budget, right?
Yes. And so you can probably get a deal with like asking for some seller assistance, like some closing cost help. That's really unlikely because that's
Hmm.
less money the bank is now getting. And remember, I said the banks want to get as much money as possible because they are financing this, and there's a loss to them too. So
Right.
they want to mitigate the loss as much as possible. So, but yeah, man, it's a longer process. You're not at liberty to ask for any lender required repairs.
Hmm.
If it needs new paint, you're buying it as is. If it needs a new roof, you're buying it as is. It's not going to be any seller concessions. Hardly ever. Dependent, and that's also dependent on the market too. So if it's a seller's market, a buyer's market where there's there's all these homes for sale, but not enough people to buy them, the bank might be more flexible at that point. But if it's in a market like we are in now, where it's a seller's market, you better believe the bank want as much as they can get, and they know that they can get.
Right. And I do, as we've been talking, I've been kind of thinking about questions in my head, that scholars may want to figure out for themselves. Is it beneficial or not? Or should I say, well, I'll rephrase. Is, you can buy a traditional home, you have it. What is the difference if, I'm buying a condo? What if I'm looking and I see that pound 23, and then I see the condo fees are like $350 a month. Is it
Yeah,
more beneficial, less beneficial? What is the
yeah,
difference between buying a home and then buying an actual condo?
yeah. So buying a home is great. Buying a condo is great. It depends on what works best for you. I never deter people from either or, just whatever fits your needs. But there's things that you want to know about both, like homes, especially newer homes and established communities, and in new developments, they're going to have an HOA fee.
Hmm.
If they have a pool, a playground, a walking trail, you know, dog park and doggy stations. That's part of the homeowners association. Everybody's a
Right.
part of that. When you're in a condo, so when you own a home, you own your home and that land that your home sits on only.
Hmm.
When you own a condo, you have ownership in that condo unit and the amenities that are incorporated into that condo community. You have partial ownership of that. So,
Mm.
and it's there's difference between the HOA and the condo association, um, but people are kind of shy away from condos because of the condo fees, because a lot of them can be high, especially here in DC. There was a listing I did with a buddy of mine. The condo fee was like $1,600, and the apartment already costs about 700,000, 700, 700 for 750. So you have your condo fee. Let's say your condo fee in a normal size condo, $300 a month. That's going to cover your common ground area. It might provide you with, some of them provide you with internet access, all through the building in your apartment or your condo. And some of the other amenities, if you have a swimming pool or workout room, walking trail, and you have ownership in that. So you're a part owner of that, although the things that belong to that community.
Hmm.
The homeowners association, you don't have ownership of. You help pay the upkeep and maintenance of that. And you do the same with the condo association, but each unit is a shared ownership between all the other owners in the
Mm.
community.
Okay.
And so condos, when you have that fee, that's also, it's added into your mortgage. So you have to really add it into your mortgage. So that 300, and if you bought that place for 250, and your mortgage is 1,500, add that 300 right on in there. Because when you don't pay your condo fees in multiple units within your complex, or may not be paying them, you'll become delinquent as a community.
Mm,
And it's really hard to get like first time home buyers to purchase because you won't be allowed to sell to first time home buyers. And then one, your community has to be registered for that in the first place. And so when you're in a new home, when you're in a residential community that are single family homes or townhomes that are not condos, it's much different. But there's benefits to each. People like condos because they're easier to maintain than
hmm
homes. If you don't want to do all the home maintenance, and the association takes care of everything. Your roof leaks, association takes care of it. If my roof leaks, I have a homeowners association, but that's not their responsibility. So in the condo association, because everybody owns it, everybody takes care of it.
Okay.
And so those are some of the differences. They both, like I said, they both have their benefits. I definitely hear people saying that they don't like condos for that fact. And I hear people saying they don't like some certain new construction homes or communities because they have HOA fees. The HOA, some people tend to roll them into their mortgages, but they're really two separate payments.
hmm
And you can miss a payment and not affect like your mortgage, where that may not be the case with the condo association. And it may not or may not be the case, depending on how it's set up. But you don't want to miss payments on either because they can bring you to collections or put a lien on your house until you pay it. And you definitely don't want to do
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, with a condo, if I have grass, say I have a town, it's set up as a townhouse, but it's a condo. If I have
it.
grass in front of that condo, I don't own that grass. I don't own that land like I would if I purchase a home and have
Right,
grass in front of my house.
right, right.
Okay, okay.
And you don't have to cut that grass either.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, and those go into the condo fees. Am I correct?
Right. So the condo fee will come in and take care of all those areas.
Good, good, good. Now, if I let's say I do buy a condo, is it harder to sell that condo than it would be a traditional home?
No, I mean there's buyers for all type of homes.
Mhm.
Depending on the condo and where it's located, there's buyers for every type of home. Man. So I would say no, but sometimes, especially here in Prince George's County where we live, it's sometimes tougher to buy condos for, especially for new homeowners, new first time home buyers, because if you're using an FHA loan, a lot of the condos where we live don't qualify for the FHA loan, either because they're so delinquent or they haven't gone through the process. And I forget how this process works, but they have to register their community for that. But in other communities within Maryland, like in Howard County or Montgomery County, many of their condos do qualify for FHA loan. But I think to me, that's a whole other economic issue and class issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and I see. I kind of see sometimes when you're looking around, you see condos. You'll see a condo that's in an apartment style building that you would
Yeah.
normally pay rent for, but you see
Yep.
them as instead of it being for rent, you see the condo that's $80,000 or $100,000 in an apartment building. Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have them here. I've sold them. There's condos that I've sold for $40,000 to a cash buyer, and they
Mm,
might need some work. And what they do is they buy them. They put like maybe 10,000 because they're not huge.
hmm
And you can buy a 5,000 square foot condo. It's going to cost you about $1 million, I'm sure. It's going to be like a penthouse condo,
hmm
but a $40,000 condo is going to be like a two-bedroom apartment that you see any type of garden style or apartment complex.
Right.
So no bigger than, on average 1,600 square feet. Sometimes and most times usually smaller. But they'll buy them, fix them up and rent them out. And if you buy at, with cash at 40,000, you have no mortgage. You're just responsible for paying the annual taxes, which on a $40,000 purchase might only be a couple $100 a year, and they rent that out for cash flow. Um,
Mm,
there was a buyer that I had. I took to that same complex. I was just, single, a middle-aged woman who just needed a place for her and the cats. She didn't require much, and she wanted to buy one of those condos. And she, unfortunately, didn't qualify for FHA. She did conventional, did 10% down. 10% off of $10,000 is what I mean. $100,000 is $10,000, and she got herself a condo. So, and then you have condos that look like townhomes.
Right.
And it is operate the same way. So those most likely won't be $80,000 unless there's a foreclosure or something like that. But condos can be great tools and vehicles for getting your feet wet and as a landlord because there's less maintenance and upkeep. But anytime you sell a house, whether you have an FHA, I mean not FHA, HOA or condo association, you have to gather, they all have these documents, like the financial documents, the bylaws. You have to gather that, and the person who's buying has to have access to that by a certain period of time, or the deal can be null and void. And it's good to get your hands on those documents to kind of see, pardon in the background noise, but to kind of see what the rules and regulations of that association is to determine whether or not that's a place you would like to live. Because they may not allow the type of dog that you may have, or they may have some rules that you just don't want to live by. I know. And so, and that those are the things with HOAs and condo associations that you always have to be mindful of. These things, and they can change, with the community coming together, and meeting because they should meet regularly, and you can propose change to those bylaws, but that's again another process.
Yeah, that's good to know. Sometimes some of those things slip through the cracks. You may
Yeah,
get into an area, you may buy a home, and then a month into the home, you kind of settle down, gotten comfortable, but you realize you can't have overnight parking, or
right.
there's certain things you want to change the paint on your front
Yeah,
door, but
can't do it.
you can't do it without
Yeah, you get a
special
fine.
permission.
Yeah,
And then you get fined if you do it and
yeah,
somebody
you
finds
get a
out. So
fine.
so I definitely learned that I wanted to put in new windows. And I have an HOA, and they told me I have to have a certain pattern in the window. I
Yep.
have to have certain panels. It can't be
Yeah.
just an open window. I'm
Yep.
like, man, I own this house. I own this
Yeah.
land, but you mean to tell me,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
So, and that's the good and bad part about HOAs. If people like that uniformity,
Hmm.
it sets rules and regulations about what folks can do to their homes. I know my HOA. If I want to add a deck to my house, I have to get my neighbors on both sides to sign off on it, and then submit it to the HOA.
Wow.
I know that we can't have in-ground swimming pools because it's not allowed by the HOA. So if you want to do any type of changes like that, it has to go through the HOA or your association. You know, trying to think that I do it when I got a new roof. But yeah, when I got a new roof, just because you want to let them know what's going on, and if there's going to be any inconveniences to your neighbors as well.
Yeah, I got a new roof, and I had to get a certain color shingle
Yeah, yeah,
on my roof.
yeah,
So
yeah. You can't go and just put a hot pink door on your house if you have HOA. If it's the rules may say you got to have a door that is one of these colors.
right. Yeah. So and that's just another part of the research. Just making sure that the thing that you want to do, once you purchase that home and sign that mortgage, you're allowed to do without having to put up a fight. So keep that in mind, scholars. And I want to take this time to kind of backtrack for a second. So we talked all kind of things. We talked about credit. We talked about blank loans. We talked about interest rates. I want to kind of talk about this term, first time home buyers.
Yeah.
A lot of scholars, you guys may be on here, and this will be your first time. So, Kelvin, really quickly, what type of assistance is out there for first time home buyers? What type of programs? I know specifically for me, I went through NACA, which allowed me to get a great mortgage rate on my home. So just talk about, just first time assistance in general, and then what you can get out of it.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and this varies by financial institutions, so banks and programs. And I say programs because, like you mentioned, there's programs like NACA, and I forget what NACA stands for, but there's community-based programs that support first-time home buyers in buying homes, especially in areas in which, like, people may not be able to afford. Like DC has this program called HPAP, and I forget what HPAP means, but HPAP. And really, the price of living in DC is just crazy right
Hmm.
now. But they help with financial assistance, which is free money in the form of a grant to help with either the down payment or the closing costs for your transaction. So those are some like the community based, so these, if you're in a major city, it's more than likely that there's some type of community based program out there that helps with home buyers, because what's happening in a lot of the major cities is gentrification, which is pushing folks out of communities in which they
Hmm.
normally used to live, where they cannot no longer afford.
Right.
Um, and then you have programs with the banks, like I mentioned USDA. They provide 100% financing. But I know Bank of America in this area has a program where they offer, I believe, I think it's up to $10,000 for a grant for your closing costs or down payment. So you you just can't assume every bank or every mortgage lender has access to these programs, because some of
Mhm.
them are run through states and counties.
Right.
Like Maryland has a Maryland mortgage program, which helps people buy homes in Maryland in the form of, I think it's about $9,000 of assistance. But with that program, you get a higher interest rate.
Mm.
And if you sell your house within a certain period of time, let's say 5 years, you have to pay back a part of that money.
So some of them do have some stipulations that you
Yeah,
may or
so
may not like.
you gotta read about the stipulations, and you gotta read, because some of them are grants and some of them are given to you in the form of a second mortgage, which is a second loan.
Hmm.
And those are some of the ones that which you have to pay back if you sell the house within
Okay.
5 years. So if you stay in the house for 5 years, you don't have to pay it back. But if you don't, then you have to pay back. It's usually like 1,000 or 2,000 a year for the years that you did not stay in the home. But SunTrust Bank, they have programs where you can get either 5,000 up to 7,500. Sometimes I've seen up to $10,000 of money that can be used to help buy your home. And sometimes you have to attend a class or a
Hmm.
workshop to have access, but it might be an hour, 2 or 3 or 4. But I think it's worth it if you're going to get free money to help you buy a home. I mean, it's a no brainer. The HPAT program I mentioned, the buyer who used that program to buy a house that I was selling got over $30,000 in assistance. I
Wow.
mean, that's just incredible.
Free money.
Yeah, free money, and you don't have to pay it back. It helps you get in the home, because home ownership in certain communities is so difficult and challenging that this is the way to help everyone. You know, I wouldn't even say level the playing field or give an equal playing field, but at least get everybody a chance to get some skin in the game. If you have the right qualifications and have done the right things financially, put yourself in a position to purchase a home. Now, there's instances where you don't qualify because you make too much money. And so
Yeah.
it all depends on the medium income and where you live. I know in Prince George's County is about one of the programs I'm working with now. I think a family or individuals about $99,000 a year that you can make over in order to qualify for this $7,500.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, they have programs that are specific to doctors, and this might be appealing to some of the gay scholars in the medical field, where if you're in your residency or fellowship, that they help you with your down payment assistance as well. So there's free money out there. You got to do the research, be patient, take the time. It's worth it. I mean, you just mentioned you went through NACA, so I'm sure you know it wasn't a quick and easy process. Nothing worth having is quick and easy.
That's
You
for
know?
sure. That's for
And
sure.
so if it's worth having, you go through the process, to get what you need to make what you want to happen come to fruition. So do your research. Don't jump on the first lender that tries to get you to, get a mortgage through them,
Hmm.
because it's a business. Buying a home is a business. From you picking your real estate agent to your mortgage lender to your title company to your insurance company to your inspection, all that is a business. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence, especially if you know you're going to need some down payment assistance. Look at community programs wherever you live. Look at, ask the banks what type of programs they have, and credit unions what type of programs they have, and ask about 100% financing. And it's a way to get your foot in the door without blowing a hole in your pocket. You know, I tell folks, if you got to do 100% financing and take a slightly higher interest rate just to buy that house, and you can afford it, do it, get the house, and then refinance the house 6 months later to a lower interest rate with another bank.
Yeah, that's great
So just,
information. You can always. I've also seen Kelvin. Different programs if you're first responders, if you're teachers,
yeah, teachers.
if you're law enforcement.
Yeah,
I've seen programs to where they want to revitalize certain neighborhoods,
yeah,
so they'll give you so much money
yeah.
to move into the neighborhood. And I'm not saying these neighborhoods are bad or anything like that.
No,
It's just
but it's
certain
like
neighborhoods that they
the
like to
community
redevelop,
development programs.
yep, and get booming once again. So
Yeah,
scholars, there's so many different resources. I know Kelvin and I, we just kind of barely scratched the surface, but I mean, I've also seen different first time for students who have student loans.
yeah. They have
Uh,
that in Maryland, the Maryland Smart Buy
yep,
program.
you buy in a certain area, of course,
Yeah,
and you can get those loans paid for,
yeah. They
taken
pay
care
for
of.
your loans,
So
let you buy the house, and well, that's a blessing right there. And
exactly.
so even new construction homes, or I've had someone qualify with a builder, and the builder has their own lender. And so most builders already give an incentive of closing costs that give you 10,000. The lowest I've seen is 2,500 or
Hmm.
zero. Most folks are not doing zero, but
Right.
they'll give you some closing cost assistance. But their lender, some lenders have access to some of these programs where they can say, "Hey," and I remember it was just last year where one of my buyers was able to get in a loan. It was a 376,000 or $97,000 townhome, and they qualified for this program where they got an additional $9,000 to
Wow.
help with the down payment, and so or closing costs. So they were already getting. I think this community was giving $10,000 or $15,000 in closing. They were getting another 9,000. So and all they needed was about 12 to 13,000, $11,000. I remember $11,000 to buy this house with the down payment and a little bit more closing costs. And
Man,
it was almost a $400,000 home.
that's amazing. Sometimes, and that just speaks to it. Sometimes with a lot of these programs and a lot of these first time home buyer incentives, I should say, you can afford more house than you initially make it qualify for. Because you
Yeah,
can you can make that 300, you can make that $400,000 house. With all of these programs and the grants, make it actually feel like you're buying a $300,000 house or a three hundred
yeah,
twenty thousand dollar house, depending on how much money that you get up front. And also specifically with NACA, you can buy down your interest rate.
yeah,
So if you lock in at a 3% interest rate, you can almost be for certain you can get it down to possibly under two. I currently
yeah,
know individuals who have a less than 1% interest rate. They're barely
yeah.
paying any money
You just
in
ask,
interest.
how much does it cost to buy down the rate? And
Exactly.
that rate that can change by the day because it's by the interest rates every
Hmm.
day. But it might be like, okay, for $3,000 more, you can buy down this rate a whole percent, which might save you in a mortgage payment $300 a month.
Which is a good amount of money within a
Yeah,
mortgage payment.
over 30 years, that's a whole lot of money.
Exactly. Exactly. So, scholars, there are a lot of programs out there, whole lot of programs,
Yeah,
and like I said, we're just
yeah.
we're just
Do your
scratching the surface.
research. Yeah, just do your research. Don't be discouraged. Take the class or the workshop. It's worth
Exactly.
it. Ain't no
So,
money like free money.
no money, like, especially when it comes to home ownership. So scholars, I want to thank you for tuning into this second edition of our home buyer. I guess we can call this home buying 102. But I definitely wanted to leave you with these gems. You're not alone in this process, of course. You have some help. I know this is a scholarship program, but at the end of the day, you all deal with real life scenarios. And of course,
Yep,
Kelvin and
absolutely.
I, we've purchased homes. Kelvin sells them, buys and sells them as a realtor. So we're here if you guys need any assistance. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Kelvin, thank you again for dropping your knowledge as our real estate guru. And with that said, guys, we thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Have a good one.
Take care, everybody.